Welcome to the future. My name is Zach Gardner. I'm the chief architect at Keyhole Software, and about 3 to 4 months ago, I got a little bit of a wild hair. Everyone was talking about generative AI, and I felt like I just didn't know enough about it. So I went out, as one does, and I found people on LinkedIn, I found people at different social engagements, ran into a couple people multiple times, and I got some really good insights that I want to share with you all today. A little bit different than most of the people that I normally interview. Most of the people I would say on this program so far have been kind of, just like programming nerds, like people like me that go into a closet and, can program for 8 hours a day. But I wanted to get a well-rounded perspective from people that are in different areas of enterprise operations, from banking, finance. Today's guest, if you can't tell from his little badge that I'm going to be adding into post-production on this video, is Dale Thomas, whom I have met in person, and you are 100% not a robot. You're not a hologram.
Not a hologram.
No, he's the founder of ActionableOps. Dale, thank you very much for agreeing to be on the program today.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Yeah, and I didn't notice this, but you have a little Xbox controller behind you. We should talk Xbox sometime. I dig
Definitely. I got sucked back into it about a year ago, and I cannot stop playing Call of Duty.
it. Yep. Call of Duty 4 was my drug of choice back in 2006, I think. It was Halo and Call of Duty 4. Anyway, that's for a different podcast. So, first, a good place to start, maybe kind of give everyone that's listening a little bit of your background, like where did you grow up, maybe what sports teams were you on as a kid, kind of how did you go from, sort of a young, sort of aspiring Dale Thomas to someone who is now, founded their own company and is working with others for operations as it relates to generative AI. Let's start there.
Sure. So I originally from California. I love to say I'm from Seattle, but originally from California. I didn't play a lot of sports because I was always the last guy picked, and I'm 6'5" now. So in school, I was always one of the tallest kids in school, and they just expected me to know how to dribble a ball and play basketball, which never happened. I didn't play sports very much, but I did kind of gravitate towards like computers and technology. So even back in the early 80s, I got my first computer. My dad was a COBOL Pascal programmer, and he had gotten a Texas Instruments TI-99, which is where I first learned how to program. And not that I consider myself a programmer by any means, but I was really fascinated by the idea of using logic and programming languages and building my own games because I was kind of a creative type. So I spent a lot of time on that machine back in the day. And then when the 90s hit, the Seattle music scene was just getting started. And we had decided to move to Seattle, where I spent time booking bands. And I was in music, so I was booking bands and then ended up going on tour with several bands and really teaching ourselves how to do the whole music business. Kind of that punk rock mentality of doing it ourselves and doing guerrilla marketing. And in Seattle, I also worked in hotels where I was really honing my skills around customer service. But like anybody I wanted to get a real job, and I decided technology would be the way to go. So again, kind of following that same like punk rock mentality of just getting out there and doing it. After my shifts at the hotels, I would take contract work, doing hardware replacement and swapping out monitors and keyboards and whatever it takes to show the contract company that I had what it took and they could trust me and I was credible. And that led into a role at Microsoft as a contractor, where I was part of the tablet PC team. And I believe tablet PC was the actual first like Surface tablets. And I built out demos and maintained images for the tablet PCs. And those were used by executives at Microsoft for different demos. And if people needed to check out a tablet to prototype it and So that was a lot of fun, and I was fortunate to be able to land a full-time job at Microsoft because I was contracting. After a couple of years of doing that, I went over to the operations group, and this is where operations group, as far as like a program operations program manager in Ad Center, which is now Microsoft Bing. Um, and this was one of the best times of my career, and it's where my passion for operations, I think, really took off. I was able to build a team of individuals from the ground up who were out there looking for policy violations on the Microsoft network and potential criminal activities. And it was the first time I was really able to do a lot of cross-group, cross-function collaboration with legal and product and engineering. And also where I was able to find one of the two managers who made a significant impact on my career and started me on the journey of developing my leadership and management style. From there, I decided to take a job at a startup in New York, and I worked at a few different startups in New York where I learned the importance of teamwork and getting things done no matter what your job title was. And at a startup, I firmly believe that it doesn't matter what your title is. We're in it together. We have to do it to get the job done. And I had a really an appreciation for the startup environment with the opportunities to take on different roles and collaborate with others to build something from the ground up. After that, I bought into a franchise system, and this gave me an opportunity to work with a different group of people. There are a lot of young people, and I really work on my appreciation for effective communication and motivating the team. And it was also where I really learned how to leverage unique strengths of everybody on my team to help that team member achieve their goals. And it's where I started to embrace the leadership, or excuse me, the servant leadership style. Um, I'm a passionate, continuous learner, and I'm always trying to learn how to better myself and become a better person, a better leader, and build out my skill set. And I guess over the course of my career, the number one trait that I've seen in leaders and managers was charisma. And great leaders for me are always charismatic. And um, charisma to me is the balance of two traits of warmth and competence. So I've always tried to focus in on those two characteristics. But as someone who falls in the neurodiverse category, it takes a lot of effort for me to connect with people. So I'm always trying to learn new methods of connecting, and this means stepping out of my comfort zone a lot. It's a constant battle of really trying to get out there and connect with people. Mm-hmm. So my last role that I had was a director of operations for a startup overseeing business operations, HR, um, uh, finance, payroll, support, marketing, and sales ops. And that's where I started Actionable Ops a few months ago to really help other businesses with their operational needs. So I'm a solopreneur there, but I will admit I do miss the environment of startups, and have considered maybe startups where I need to go as the next stage of my career and get back into it. But we're still trying to figure that out and just see what's out there. And right now we're having a lot of fun with Actionable Ops.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I can tell. It's been fun to chat with you over the past few months, and like where we connected was really on the KCAI Club front. So thank you again very much to Chris Kovac and the team for putting that together. Sort of connecting to people that had lived on opposite ends of the coast that had met in the middle. It's always fun. So I'm curious,
Yes.
that we'd kind of chatted about this a little bit beforehand. Talk to me about where you're using generative AI in your personal life as well as in your professional life. Are there generative AI tools that you like over others? Kind of where do you see like the sweet spot in terms of your effectiveness with these new breed of tools that we have at our disposal?
Well, personally, I use three different tools for three different reasons in Gen AI. The first is going to be Text Cortex, which is my daily tool. so I can have my conversations like everybody else. And I do a lot of my planning. So my wife's vegetarian. I'm not. I have an 8-year-old little girl, and I found Gen AI is great with coming up with meal plans and recipes. So everybody gets a little bit of what they want. So I've been using it a lot there. I love learning new subjects with Gen AI. And a lot of times I will record, if I'm taking a course, record the course I'm taking online, transcribe it, and then I put it into Text Cortex as a knowledge base. Text Cortex has the ability to have like mini LLMs, I guess you could say, a knowledge base, so you can interact with it on a specific subject versus having and have multiple files in the knowledge base versus having a big long chat. I do use ChatGPT, but I mainly use ChatGPT as a like a buddy while I'm driving around. I love driving, and I love just being able to have a conversation with my assistant, as my wife calls her, and we could just chat about anything, whatever's on my mind for that day. So I love using ChatGPT in that way. And then, of course, I use Perplexity, which has now become my replacement for Google search. Um, from, I guess, a business perspective, where do I begin? I mean, everything we do is revolved around Gen AI, from like reviewing, legal documents and getting it to act as a legal advisor, since it'll come right out and tell you it's not an attorney, to looking at our data analytics, and our data analytics platform provides Gen AI for metrics analysis as well. So it provides things like actionable summaries against multiple data sources, or helps tell the story with the data of how your business is actually performing, or the kind of the trajectory of your business. And then one of the things that I love that it does is provides insights to evaluate your business performance. Um, One thing that I did recently that I thought was really cool, so a company came to me and they had a lot of survey data. They recently had surveyed their employees, and they wanted to understand kind of the summary of the survey results, and how the company, um, how the employees thought the company was doing, and how the leadership was doing. So was able to get it um, into Text Cortex and get summaries of all the different columns, how employees were really feeling about the company, which provide them some of the metrics and some of the numbers that they needed as a company. But also, I also had it provide sentiment analysis to interpret how the employees were really feeling based off some of the words that they were using. Something the company didn't ask for, but I was having fun and playing with it, and I wanted to kind of see some of the different things it could do. But it provided some really interesting analysis, which the company wasn't expecting. So of course, they're really happy about that. We even created like red flags. Tell me, if they saw any red flags, to find out if there's any cultural issues or legal issues or HR issues, anything that the company should be aware of. And again, this was kind of like above what the scope was, but I was trying to throw some interesting things in there. And then we had to provide a summary, an executive summary of all the data that it did provide, so they can get a nice little summary report of everything. So it was great. We use it to create playbooks, operational playbooks. I recently had it create a client's website and provide the framework and the basic copy for the different pages. The clients are going to reword it, make it their own, but our goal was to just provide a framework for them. And then we also use it for like email campaigns, for like transactional emails, more than, I know there's a lot of tools for like marketing emails, but in this case, we had used it for transactional emails. So that's really what we're using as far as personal and business.
Mhm. No,
Oh,
that's really cool. And Text Cortex, I've seen you post about that a lot. Um,
yeah.
that so far has been your favorite. Any particular reason why, other than that it's a very cool name?
Many, many, many reasons. One, um, it allows you to play with several different things. You can do just chats. They have a tool, a Chrome add-in, so I can get it to do all my spell checking and rewriting of emails if I want, much like Grammarly. And so it replaces several different tools. The team is very small. I'm not sure how big they are, but I believe it's like under 20 people, and they're very accessible. So I regularly communicate with their leadership team, their CEO, and some of their co-founders and product managers, and provide my feedback on the tool. So it's great to see some of the features come out based off of some of my suggestions, and they're all available on Discord versus some of the larger companies out there where they only want to talk to big enterprise customers versus the little small places. Um, and so text cortex, they're just growing, and it just became very handy. They don't have a lot of the features like ChatGPT as far as the different um, I forget what they're called, the little GPTs, or
Hmm.
is that what they're called?
Or like custom GPTs, is that what they call them?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think I think that's what they are. They don't have like that, but you can create your own personas. Um,
Okay.
so I have like 10 or 15 different personas, like a legal analysis, a data analysis, a copywriter. So you can create those type of personas, which is a lot of which is really neat.
Hmm.
So we love it.
Very cool. No, and I believe we will also have in the description of this video cast or podcast, wherever it is that you're consuming it, a 30% off coupon code for your first 3 months. So I am not paid by Text Cortex, just by the way, just, this was just something that they, contacted you as far as I know. And they're like, hey, spread the good news about these other tools.
Right. Just having a conversation with their CEO, Dom, letting them know about this show, and he offered to provide this discount. So I don't get, I'm not making anything off this discount code either. So I think it's actionable ops 30 is the discount code.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, we'll put that in the text. So, no, if you're interested, check it out. I know, I think I am. So you've gone through a lot of work. You talked through a lot of different use cases, a lot of different ways that you're using it. I'm curious what recommendations you have maybe to other business owners for how they should be using it. What are some of the things, maybe like any pain points or anything that you ran into? Just like what are some just very salient recommendations that you have to others that are looking to incorporate this in the part of their their day to day?
So as far as like for a business, I would strongly have the business or the leadership team take a look at what you plan on providing the chat. Um, Never want to provide personal or confidential information that could where the it can learn from that data, as we saw with some cases like Samsung, and I think there's a couple others. We don't You don't ever want to see your proprietary data get leaked out that way. So consider kind of how you want to use that information, and to be fair, ChatGPT on the regular license, I believe anything you put into it trains it. On the enterprise license, I don't think that's the case. I've never used it. Um, and then again, this is why I use one of the reasons why I use Text Cortex, because they don't use your data to train any LLMs. Um, and because they're based in Germany, they also have G, GDPR. Is that what I'm
Yes,
thinking?
yes, GDPR.
Yes.
It rolls off the tongue.
It did until I went to go say
Yeah.
it. And then I couldn't remember what it was called. They have GDPR, and Germany has also its own set of very strict rules on what you can do with data.
Mhm.
So that's mainly like consider how you plan on using the data, and then considering your application on how you would like to use it. Are you wanting to create marketing copy, or create images, or create content for handbooks or playbooks, and just having a good understanding of what you plan on using. Um, you can have policies and frameworks with how the data should be used, and then provide training to your employees on how to best use it. I can't stress that enough. Don't give them keys to the kingdom, but really give them the framework on how best to use it, to make sure that your personal confidential data does not get leaked out there, or which different chatbots that your teams are using.
Mhm. Good call out for GDPR, and I believe Germany even has like a stronger subset of regulations to where it's like if you're doing business in Germany, it's not even that the data has to stay local to the EU; it has to stay local like to Germany as well. California, I think, is coming out with something similar. I mean, there's the whole right to forget, Which if it's like, if you're thinking about right to forget in the context of GDPR, if your data gets included in a large language model like data training set, you need to be able to also remove that. So it's like there's just so many different policies, so many different regulations that are coming out in this. It's really hard to be able to just keep up. I'm curious if there's any other things that you're tracking above and beyond GDPR. Any other? You mentioned too the ability to not have your own data be able to be trained on subsequent iterations of the model. I'm just curious if there's anything else that you've run into or that you're thinking about as it relates to policies or regulations.
I mean, those are the two big ones. I know, when we're talking about what we put into um, like personal confidential information, New York had something recently come out. Like it was New York City's local law. I think it was 144, which regulated the use of automated employment systems, which includes, to prevent unlawful bias and discrimination in the hiring process. So you definitely need to know your laws of your region. You had mentioned California; they have their very own specific laws, and so understanding what your laws are is important. And then I know Biden had signed an executive order on AI. I think it was back in November, where there are some new standards for AI safety and security. And this is a developing area. Even though AI seems like it just came out a year ago. It's been around for many, many years, but now it's just getting, traction with the masses, and local governments are trying to figure out what they want to do for safety of the people. And there's a lot of different data sharing requirements with the executive order that Biden came out with. I don't know a lot of the ins and outs of it. I just started reading it recently.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I actually did a video cast on that. So we're recording this on Monday, February the 12th, after the Chiefs have won the Super Bowl. I did a video
Yes.
cast on that actually on Friday the 9th, I believe. My
Oh,
my particular take on it was a bit nerdier because there were sections of the EO where they said there will be subsequent frameworks, subsequent policies, subsequent regulations that come out to fulfill like individual pieces of it. And the one that I was focused on is what came out from NIST for their secure software development framework. The last time they updated it was in February 2022, I believe. And they did a 3-hour webinar on if you're going to be developing a generative AI system, here are just the broad brushstrokes of the things that you need to be concerned about. And they're having I think the formal framework is probably coming out in like June or July of this year. So shameless self promotion for my video cast. I took 3 hours of content and I tried to boil it down into 30 minutes, but as a loquacious individual, 30 minutes is it's more of a guideline. It's not full or
I'll
anything.
be sure to watch it.
Yeah. So I'm trying to think anything else that you wanted to cover. I mean, I'm kind of going through my list. I think we hit all the big points just before I do my little outro.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm just curious, what are you using for your chatbots?
Oh
What's
man,
yours?
no one ever flips the interview script on me. I didn't yield the remainder of my time to the floor. Um, for it's sort of a hodgepodge for text analysis. I use Chat GPT for it to just kind of generate ideas for me along the lines of what you were talking about. You don't ever want to like copy paste directly something from Chat GPT and pretend that it's your own words. You always want to rewrite it as yourself. But it's a good way if you have writer's block and you're staring at an empty screen. You want to be able to just fill some of it in, because then the ideas at a quantum level, sort of percolate in the mind.
Yeah.
Images, I had been using Dolly for a while. I really like computer generated images. I'm trying to think. I either use Genmo or Runway, depending upon if I want just a static image or if I want movement, and then if I want movement for me to be able to select like which areas I want movement. Those are the three tools that I think I've found the most use out of. It was mostly just like trial and error. I had tried Midjourney, I had tried Stable Diffusion, and I just for whatever reason like my spirit just seemed to coalesce better with Dolly than it did with the other tools. I don't know. why.
Sure, sure. Cool.
Yes.
I definitely used Midjourney for a little while, and I like it. Dolly, I don't have a lot of reason to create images, so it did seem to be Midjourney at the time. But I'll definitely.
Mhm.
I have used Dolly in the past. I'll have to try it again.
It's free now as part of, God, what do they call it? Microsoft Designer, I think. Where if you
Oh,
just like Google like Microsoft Designer like Dolly 3, you can go in and it's linked to your Microsoft account, so you have to have one of those. But above and beyond that, as long as you don't use like more than 100 credits a month, I think they replenish themselves. So it's it's free. So that's why I like it too.
freeze good.
Yeah. But no, Dale, this was good. We covered a lot of ground. We talked about a lot of different things. It gave me some interesting insights into things that I had never thought about before. So, thank you very much for coming on the program today.
Absolutely, and thank you again for having me. It was a lot of fun.
Yep. And ladies and gentlemen, we'll catch you in the future.